Good morning. Welcome to the Sports Desk, streamed live on Facebook with producer Alden Iwani. I'm Ed Nunez. Our special guest today is Dana Pappas, the Commissioner of Officials for the New Mexico Activities Association. Dana, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. We always have fun with this, Ed, so I'm glad to be back and talk a little officiating and whatever else comes to our mind. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Dana, I think, gosh, we've had you on radio. We've had you on, on the sports desk. And, as a former official that did it for 22 years, officiating is still. Joe Beta from Sports Primo had me on a sportscast and a podcast and asked me about officiating. And again, unless you've done it, and it includes soccer, volleyball, track, swimming, all the officials you have, it's like a family to you. And unless you've done some officiating, we've always said that the guy in row 6 has the best view, and he knows, he knows it all, right? So, anyway, we're glad to have you on. And just a quick comment, Dana. Yesterday, the New Mexico Activities Association set February 22nd as the start for practice. And there's a lot of things to be worked out. And we don't want to say, your quick comment, because I know everyone is so busy there. And you guys are on Zoom meetings, and we'll get into what you've been doing with your officials to keep them engaged here in a few minutes. But just a quick comment from you about that.
It's exciting. It was good news. We're just anxious to get back to some sense of normalcy, whatever that is. I think we're all struggling to define normal at this point, but it's almost been a year since we've been shut down. So it's exciting, and we're just waiting to see what all happens. So more information will be coming out, and surely Sally will be on the news and on any media that she can be on to kind of talk about what's happening and guidelines and all of that. So we're working hard. Work definitely hasn't ceased in the NMAA office. We're still working and just trying to provide opportunities for kids when the time becomes available.
And we're all looking forward to that. Dana, let's talk about officiating. Again, you're the commissioner of officials of all officials. You have your hands full. Normally at this time of year, we're entering district basketball for boys and girls, and we're getting ready for the state tournament, and soccer, track and field's around the corner, baseball's around the corner. There's not, and again, you mentioned it's different now, but talk about, again, if we do jump off it's soon here in a couple of weeks, officials will be back in business. Now, you've kept them engaged in basketball, football, all of them. Talk a little bit about the challenges it's been for you as a commissioner of officials working through a COVID pandemic.
It's been interesting because we've really tried to find as many silver linings as we can through the process. So obviously the difficulty has been lack of camps, lack of games, lack of scrimmages. So officials aren't able to get out and have real life officiating situations. But really, since the pandemic hit, we started doing a ton of webinars. So we had 3 officials, 2 in football, Kenna Dent and Dennis Barella, and 1 in baseball, Hector Martinez, who started webinars for just some off-season engagement and training. And we were like, wait a minute, we need to do the same thing. So we really hooked on and started having webinars in all of our sports. So I would say since March of last year, we've been on over 200 webinars with our officials in all sports, just talking about not only X's and O's, but some of the outside of the rule book aspects of officiating, which you as a former official definitely know that it's more than what's just in the National Federation rule book. So we've spent a lot of time talking about communication and how to be a good partner and game management, game awareness, anything that we can think of to really keep our officials engaged. And it's been, in a way, it's been a blessing in disguise from the standpoint of being able to have all our officials from across the state on one meeting. That gets a little difficult in New Mexico because we're so spread out geographically. Mm-hmm. So the ability for everybody to hear the same message, everybody to hear that message from the same messenger has been really good. And the officials have enjoyed the camaraderie of their their officiating counterparts from across the state, and they're able to kind of interact with them. It's not in person, but you still get to see your old buddies. I mean, as an official that 99% of the fun is the fact that you have that officiating family and you have those brothers and sisters from across the state, and being able to see them, even if it's a little square on your monitor, is kind of a cool deal. So the officials overall have really embraced the process, and they understand why we're doing it. And we've talked about moving forward when things get back to the ability to no longer be socially distanced, continuing sort of the online format just to keep the unity of the state and keep all of the regions tied together instead of it always being, all 29 basketball groups doing their own meetings. It's just been really nice to have that consistent message and allow different regions to do the presentations. We've enjoyed it quite a bit. So I think that in light of the pandemic, we've been able to really do some positive things for our officials. And, we've tried to just keep it positive, keep it light. We try to have fun with them as much as we can because there's just so much negativity going on that it's nice to be able to do some outreach and just laugh with them and spend time with them, because they are important to us. They're just not just officials, they're human beings who we value as such. So being able to spend that quality time with them has been meaningful from our office's standpoint as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, those webinars that now I remember, and I think you're right, humans, officials are humans, and sometimes fans, coaches, and people forget that, right? I mean, it's easy. We're an easy target. I'm always going to say I'm always going to be an official. You have those zebra stripes on and you're an easy target, right? So I think all those things that you're trying to do and these webinars, and I'm going to mention one that I remember going to. NBA official Billy Kennedy was there. And Billy Kennedy's ref in the NBA for what, 20 years, 25 years plus. And I remember Scotty Rossetti asking him, how do you put up with Allen Iverson? How do you, that was when Iverson was playing. I still remember Billy Kennedy's answer, hey, I'm just not going to put up with it tonight. And those things are invaluable to people that you bring in, right? If you want to learn, you mentioned game management. There's so many things about any sport, not just basketball, right? The football guys, I heard that they have a lot of fun with each other. I've always heard that from them on their crew, right? They have a lot of fun. The basketball guys do too. We got to wear a certain face when we're out there because you can see us. Football's a little bit distant. They do a great job as well. But talk about the recruitment of officials, because that's one thing that we're always trying to push here. More female officials, right? You need more of that. Officials in general, tell us where you need more officials. Where are you lacking right now?
So right now, and you and I talked the other day, right now we're in a weird situation because a lot of officials have kind of put things on pause, not knowing if we're going to have a season. So as far as knowing what our numbers look like, it's a little difficult to forecast that at this point. But we always need officials. More and more schools are participating, so that means we have more games, which means we have more opportunities for officials. One of the initiatives that we recently started is a diversity and inclusion panel. So we've taken officials from across the state, every corner of the state, every demographic that we could come up with. And we've been meeting pretty regularly since December to talk about recruitment of officials and how do we get everybody interested and making sure that everyone who joins the association feels welcomed. We've done some targeted recruitment of military veterans through battlefields to ball fields. So we're trying to find different strategies for recruiting new officials into the population. We definitely always look at college students. We're looking at high school students, individuals who may not go on to play after their high school years are over. So we're really trying to figure out what's the best method. And at the national level, a lot of the talk has been how to recruit that next generation, how to reach younger officials when, a billboard probably isn't going to be the best way to get them. A paper advertisement isn't going to be the best way to get them. So how do you draw in that next generation of officials? So, a lot of it has been embracing technology that I'm probably not very comfortable with. We've been doing these silly TikTok videos. I don't even know what TikTok is, but my assistant Nate is very proficient in all of that stuff, and he's been able to put those together. And you have to kind of have a no holds bar approach with how you recruit, because you don't want to forget a population. You don't want to forget a group of people who would be a valuable asset to the association. So recruitment's a struggle nationwide, retention's a struggle nationwide. And those are the things that we continue to look at and try to combat. And of course, in a pandemic, it's just a weird year for recruitment, for retention, for are we going to have sports, are we not? There's just been so much back and forth that it makes it difficult to devise and hold on to a plan when you're not sure what's coming down the road.
I'll tell you, but even in a good year, it's hard, right? Right? And I think you would agree with that. How long have you been the executive, the commissioner out there? How long have you been the commissioner?
So since 2004, I've been at the association since 97 and became the commissioner in 2004. Every year I've been here has all been with officials. So just seeing that evolution and progression of recruitment and retention and education of officials in that time, it's like night and day. There's been so many changes and technology's evolved so much. And of course, with technology becomes increased scrutiny of officials. So it's just, I think about when I first started here in 1997, and it's like a totally different world from where it is now in 2021. And, one of the challenges for all state associations is just keeping up with the times. And it's difficult because, unlike the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, we're a little resource limited. So we have to do the best we can without a multi-million-dollar budget. So I think that those are things that get difficult because we want to be the best and we want to stay on top of things, but we also have to realize that funds are not unlimited. Unfortunately, we don't have that money tree in the backyard, and we can't just do all of the things that pop up in our heads that are great ideas, but it's like, oh, that's going to cost $200,000. Probably can't do that this year. So we're challenged in that way, but we have so many good, bright officials in our population who want to help, and that's something that, being a small state, we're very fortunate that we have the personal relationships we do with our officials, and they're not just a name, they're not just a number. We know who they are, and because of that, we're able to really have a resource that I think some of the states with a larger officiating population may not have.
There's no question about that, and it's we'll get into conditioning. We always talk about that, and it's kind of a strange time because sports usually start there all year round, right? You guys are getting ready in July for football, then basketball, then baseball, and right now, it sounds like football, then soccer, volleyball, basketball, and we hope all these things happen. So again, without the summer camps that the guys go to and the ladies go to improve, those are so important. But I think what you've done as far as keeping them engaged is also important. And you've had some Aaron Schlesinger has been one of your go-to guys. I saw a video that you and Nate Acosta did, had me laughing. Again, you got to have some good moments. Join us. It's a family. You've always said that. And there might be people, we'll get into where to sign up. And the pay is a little bit better than when I officiated. I mean, you're not going to get rich, right? But if you love the game, if you have a passion for it, and you want to go help out, right? I mean, when I joined, my friends couldn't believe me because I was the worst guy on the refs. I'm the hardest guy, right? And when I joined, my friends were like, "Are you kidding me, man?" But I had to learn not to think as a coach and player anymore. I wasn't a coach and player.
That's
I was
right.
an official. It's way different. And for people that don't know, they think they know, right? You never made one call on any sport. You don't know. That's all I can tell you.
You don't know what you don't know.
No, you don't. Boy, it sure gave me an education. The first call I made, right? C team. I had to start off, we all grow, right? We all grow. Freshman ball, actually, probably at that time. And Ken Murphy was a great commissioner. Then Kip Luna, the late Kip Luna, the great Kip Luna, made film and everything else. Watch yourself. The film doesn't lie. I still remember that. So, and now Cliff and Jenkins they've taken things to a different, Nate Acosta, Jess Martinez. You got some great guys in basketball and great guys in football and baseball and great people. And I think you need that. You really do, because when you're in a pandemic, nobody could have predicted this, Dana. Nobody could have predicted this, right? We couldn't have expected that. But we're going to take a break. We'll be back with Commissioner of Officials, Dana Pappas, after these messages on the sports desk.
Let's get a little closer.
Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass.
Here's what he'll
just shoot it.
He's going to go all the way.
He's going to fire at the buzzer, and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much. Tie in the district. Inside, fly, Eagles.
Chavez uses some athleticism And then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds. And look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer. Here's Ian Chavez, the sharpshooter. Got it.
Couldn't have said that any better. He answered the question. He
On
got
a
another one.
steal at the buzzer. Back to back for Chavez.
To the paint. Medina from the volleyball lines. Medina wants another one from deep. Oh, he wants 10. Give him 10.
Lewis finds Watson. He's going to finish. One-handed slam. Vista, but just all the different scenarios we can see potentially play out ahead of the state tournament.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk, streamed live on Facebook. I'm Ed Nunez, along with producer Alden Iwani, our special guest, Dana Pappas, the Commissioner of Officials for the New Mexico Activity Association. And Dana, in between breaks, we were talking about some of the people that you've had on. And we want to mention a couple of Albuquerque officials, but one of them being Land Clark. Now, Land Clark, a football official, also a basketball official. How big did he make it? In college, right? He ref the national championship as the white hat. Now he's in the NFL. Talk about Land a little bit.
Land is we talk about national treasures. He's a New Mexico treasure for sure in the officiating community and just as a human being. Land's one of the best people you'll ever meet. He was, of course, the white hat in the national championship game between Alabama and Notre Dame a number of years ago. It ended up being a pretty lopsided game, but it was still amazing seeing Land as the white hat. He had refereed in the Pac-12 for a number of years and was hired into the NFL several years ago as a wing, and this year was his first year as a white hat. So it was I think I watched probably 90% of his games just to watch him. I didn't really care who was playing, but seeing Land on that stage, there's no one I know who's more deserving than him. He embodies every characteristic of a good official. He's so humble. His integrity is without a doubt. His football IQ is off the charts. And he still pays it forward to us. So if I need something, I always hesitate to ask him because he's an NFL official. I'm like, he's got better stuff to do than that. But if I don't contact him during a year, he's like, hey, you never reached out to me. Didn't you have any film for me to look at? And he always wants to give back to the NMAA. And I just, we all treasure him so much. And to see him doing his thing, and it's so well-deserved, it gives me goosebumps because he earned every bit of the honor of working in the National Football League, and seeing him is just one of the coolest things. You know how I am, Ed. When my officials succeed, I feel like a proud mom, and certainly, his first NFL game as white hat, there might have been a few tears. I was just so proud. Can't even explain how I felt, so I can't imagine how he felt. I'm watching it on TV. He was actually living it, so it was just what a cool deal. He's a special human being. And, not a lot of people know that he was even a basketball official, and he worked some RMAC as a collegiate basketball official in Division II. So he's just got an official's mind and certainly an official's heart. And we're lucky to call him ours.
Yeah, there's so many people that you mentioned that you've had on your webinars. You mentioned some Major League Baseball umpires, Joey Crawford, the former NBA official. You just had a plethora of talent and that wants to give back. And I think that's one of the things that the late Kip Luna would always talk about, improving during the off season. He was a big guy about going to camps, man. I remember, calling him during the off season. What camp did you go to? It was expected. I remember the last time when I went to, I think it was in Georgetown, Texas, Dan Barkley and I. And it was some good ball, and it's different, right? It's different atmosphere. The improving, getting better. How are you striving to get better, right? That was his big thing. And I think, as I mentioned, Cliff Jenkins and people there at the Basketball Association have taken that and ran with it. I'm sure they've done it in football, swimming, track and field, wrestling. There's so many places where officials are needed. And that's my next thing to you, Dana. Again, we always talk about recruiting and how they sign up, things like that. So I'm going to let you run with that. And, again, people might be wondering, there might be some people, and being in shape is one of the things that I'm sure most of the guys and ladies have tried to do. Again, gyms are closed and you can't go call scrimmages, and they miss it. They miss it for football. I'm not saying I'm a basketball guy, but I'm talking about all sports, right? They miss being out there. We didn't get to do the spring sports last year. Hopefully we'll get to do them all, because you miss that. You miss those moments. You really do. So talk about how they sign up, what do they need to do, what the website is, the whole thing.
So really the first point of contact would be our office. My assistant, Nate Acosta, is the person who really kind of starts that registration process with the officials. His direct line is 505-923-3286. His email address is Nate, N-A-T-E, at nmact.org. And then our website, you can just go to nmact.org and click on the For Officials tab, and I'll take you right to the New Mexico Officials Association Central Hub. And there's information there with the steps to becoming an official. So, we have 10 sports that we sanction. There's a little bit of something for everybody. We've got, baseball, softball, football, track, spirit, swimming. I mean, you name it, wrestling, we've got it. So, we have 13 sports that we sanction at the NMAA for competition. The only ones for which we do not have officials are cross country, tennis, and golf. So everything else that we have as a sanctioned sport, we need officials. So we're always looking. It's a great way to give back. It's a great way to stay active. And if you're a former athlete and you're still looking for that avenue as far as how you can stay involved, it's a great avenue to do that. And I think a lot of people who are athletes think about playing and coaching, but they don't really think about that other avenue to stay involved. And you get the best seat in the house every night, and obviously you have to have a degree of a thick skin to do it, but I can't think of a better way to be a community servant and to really give back to kids who want the opportunity to play. Without officials, we don't have games. And I was reading an article the other day out of a neighboring state talking about how this pandemic is showing the importance of athletics. And I think that as people have felt saddened by not having sports, there's a lack of realization that if we keep losing officials, we won't have them anyway. So I think when it's easy to officiate from your couch, it's easy to officiate from the stands, but it really is something that takes a lot of dedication and effort to be an official. And without them, kids don't play. So we have to make sure that from our office that we're doing a better job always of recruiting and retaining and supporting, because officials need that support. They need to know that they are part of the interscholastic family. And I always talk about interscholastic family, athletic directors, coaches, officials, and student athletes. It's all of us. We're all in this for the same reason. And I think we have to keep our eyes on that, that set of circumstances as it were.
You're talking about that nationwide trend about retaining officials. It's not just in New Mexico, it's nationwide. And I read something about that. And again, you're right about the thick skin. There's no question about that, right? There's no question. And that's why it was eerie last year when we broadcast games at Santa Ana Star Center with no fans, right? Because no cheers, Now the benches made plenty of noise. The benches did a great job of cheering. You know, the boys and girls did a great job. But I'm used to the guy in row 5, right? Hey, you know, ref, you know, and there was none of that. It was eerie. It was a little bit eerie. But you definitely have to have a thin skin, right? You definitely do, and you develop that. So anybody, you might want to mention this too, anybody that thinks they're going to walk into a 6A championship in any sport without climbing that ladder, you might want to talk about that a little bit, because it is development. It certainly is development.
It is, and there is a progression in officiating. You don't just walk out there and get the game on the Friday night lights. That's probably not going to be your first assignment. So, you start out doing sub-varsity and middle school, and then you have to work your way up. You have to show your competency as an official, rules knowledge, mechanics, physical appearance, deportment, ability to communicate. There's so much that goes into it. And officials are constantly learning. I talk about all the time of how I think there's a misconception that, whistles are handed out to the first 3 people in the door and they just go out there and work the game. That's not it at all. Officials spend thousands of hours perfecting their craft, and they'll never be perfect, ever. There's no such thing as a perfect game as a coach, as a player, as an official. It's just never, ever going to happen. And that's what we have to remember, is that human element of sport. There's always going to be mistakes, but officials are always striving for that. Even though they may not ever reach it, they're always striving for it. And the thing about officials that I think not a lot of people know is they're extremely competitive with themselves. They are their own worst critics. And when they mess up, they feel worse about it than you do. I guarantee it. Officials beat themselves up over errors because they missed something in a game, and it's going to happen. We all know that. But I think that officials are a lot more conscientious than people believe that they are. And when they mess up, they beat themselves up. And part of being a good official is learning how to not go into the tank in a game when that's happened to you. How do you reset? How do you get back in there and make sure that you finish out your game strong? Because you can't, you might beat yourself up after the game, but you can't do it during the game, because then you're just going to go in the tank. So, how do officials prepare for that moment of, I make a mistake and how do I go on? So, sometimes you really see how officials struggle a little bit with making a mistake, because I know how much they put into it. I know how much they love it, but I think people don't know that this is something that they're as passionate about as the players and coaches. They really are. I mean, officials want to officiate, and they don't want to mess up. They really don't. They want to do a good job, and they're more bothered about their errors than probably anybody else. It's a pretty interesting community in that regard.
Yeah, one more quick comment, and we got about a minute left, and you've done a great job explaining, Dana, but also officials, you will be have evaluators, and they will tell you how to get better, and sometimes people take that the wrong way too, right? I mean, there were certain evaluators I had back in the day that they probably weren't very good at it, right? I had to learn too, though. I did learn. You have to learn to take criticism. So I think that's an important thing to mention, that you have great evaluators in all sports, and they want to retain. They don't want to chase officials off. So one last thing, Dana, go ahead and let everybody know again how to sign up, and we'll wrap it up.
Check out the NMAA website at www.nmact.org. Go to the For Officials tab, and they'll take you to the steps to becoming an official. Give our office a call at 505-923-3286. That is my assistant Nada Costa's phone number, and we'll get you started. We're looking, and we're really looking forward to welcoming more people into the NMAA family, and that's how we treat our officials, and that's how we'll continue to approach it. We'd love to have you on board, and feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Let's see if we get some more officials out of this, Dana. We usually do. When we get on, we usually get a few more. Dana Pappas, Commissioner of Officials for the New Mexico Activity Association. Thanks again for being our guest. We always love having you on. We'll definitely have you back on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. That'll do it for the Sports Desk. For producer Alden Iowani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next Tuesday.